The battle of the high-end action cameras begins. The current standard when it comes to the small camera market is the GoPro Hero 8 Black. It's amazing, and I've talked about it a bunch because I'm a huge fan. But there are always those that want to take your crown, and with an impressive set of 360-degree cameras already on the market, Insta360 is trying to break into the market with their One. Which one comes out on top? Let's find out. And while we're finding it out, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Skillshare. What's up, everyone? I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. The action camera market really just kind of goes in big waves, right? Where sometimes it's only GoPro, sometimes there are a huge amount of options, and we're coming off of a wave where for the past few years, it was only GoPro with any real market presence. And honestly, I'm excited to see some competition coming back into the camera space of these cameras that I'm just absolutely fascinated by. Today we're gonna compare these two against each other, stacked against the pillars of action! Action! See, this is why I need more action cameras released, so I can yell this out more often and irritate my family. If you are new here, the pillars of action are the 5 things that a camera has to do for me to label it as an action camera. A lot of these cameras that look like action cameras are really just small fisheye distorted point and shoots. Image quality, durability, ease of use, compatibility with GoPro style mounts and accessories, and the glue that brings them all together, stabilization. All of that comes together to make those pillars of action. So first up, image quality. Both the Hero 8 and the R can record up to 4K 60 frames per second with stabilization throughout. For slow motion, the GoPro can do 2.7K at 120 frames per second and 1080p at up to 240 frames per second, while the R can do 2.7K at 100 frames per second and 1080p at 200 frames per second. Something that's pretty cool about both camera that normally GoPro stands alone on is how versatile their fields of view can be. The GoPro has super view for everything, wide for standard things, and linear and narrow for those times where you really want to make sure that you don't have that like fisheye distortion around the corners. Those situations would be called vlogging. And it's cool that the R matches it pretty well with its ultra wide, wide, and narrow modes. I mean, that is very similar to what GoPro's offered, and not a lot of companies out there match GoPro in this regard. They also both have their own version of log recording to give you the flattest image possible if you really want to grade this footage later, which I never recommend somebody to try and grade action camera footage unless you really kind of hate yourself. Like, I definitely don't try to do it. The GoPro does have some additional capabilities when it comes to its bit depth and file sizes in its codec, where in its 4K, that runs about 75-ish megabits per second, which is, I mean, frankly, that's pretty low for 4K video, and it's not very usable, especially if you've got a lot of movement in the scene. You know, like if action were going on or something. But you can also set it to their high, or as I call it, standard mode for 100 megabits per second, which still isn't groundbreaking. It's equivalent to what my A7 III up here is doing, but it's still better than 75-ish. When it comes to the actual image quality, things get vastly different. The Insta360 One R looks like action camera footage. It looks like good action camera footage, don't get me wrong, but it's still action camera footage. The skin tones are kind of waxy. The white balance, especially in auto, which is what you're probably gonna leave a camera like this in, it leaves something to be desired. It's not terrible, but you can't be just okay if you wanna compare to the Hero 8, because, I'm leading you into the next line. The Hero 8 doesn't look like action camera footage. It actually looks really good. Skin tones are solid. It's darn sharp for an action camera without looking like it's too overly digitally sharpened. And even in low light, this thing holds up pretty darn well. Can we spin it? Let's spin it here. That's how well it's holding up, is it's spinning here on the table. And I've got this camera set up and I need to get some cool shots with it. Plus, even in its slow motion, that holds up remarkably well for an action camera. Normally these kinds of cameras fall apart, well, the second you hit record, but definitely slow motion turns out bad. Not so much here though. I'd say if we were making this comparison against the Hero 7 Black, it would be way closer, but the Hero 8 is just legitimately amazing when it comes to technical image quality. Nothing else really comes close. But let's talk about the biggest, most noticeable differences that I've come across in my tests over the last week. Audio quality. Look, we're in an environment right now where audio trumps image quality. I'll watch a video all day long with meh image quality, but I will not watch a video with bad audio quality. I won't I don't even like putting videos out if the audio is bad. I will redo a whole video if the audio is bad. Like, I can't even type something into the script right now that makes this even sound like a close contest because it's not. The audio on the 360R is just bad. Maybe a firmware update in the future will fix this, but this is with commercially available software that I bought. Like, I bought this camera, I updated it in the beginning because I was forced to update it when I turned on the camera, and it sounds terrible. The audio starts off very low to begin with, but even with the wind reduction turned off, you still get that whine added to the vocals that just sound like the wind reduction is still going even when it's turned off. So if you need a camera for good audio quality, do not buy the Insta360 One. Maybe buy it if you just want the image quality and you're not gonna use audio, but if you need audio, And we're contrasting that to the GoPro Hero 8 Black, which has easily the best audio recording capabilities I've ever seen on a camera, action or otherwise. It legitimately sounds like you have a directional microphone pointed at you, even when it's just the camera by itself being handheld. This is a tough category to go up against GoPro in because they really knocked it out of the park with the Hero 8. I mean, Gary here, I wouldn't want to make a camera to compete against this. It's crazy. We don't normally do this, but since people have been using these as vlogging cameras, let's hop outside really quickly and do a vlogging test. Okay, and welcome to the vlogging test between the GoPro Hero 8 Black and the Insta360 One R. Now I'm just hand holding both of these. I don't have a tripod or gimbal or anything set up. They're both set to 4K 30 frames per second. They're both set to their linear modes, and they are both set to auto exposure. So this is the image and the audio quality that you can get between the two cameras. Check this out. There we go. Now we've separated them and bringing them back in. So yeah, I do really like using these action cameras. As action cameras get more and more powerful, I do really like using them as vlogging cameras. You used to not be able to because the image quality was bad, the audio was bad, but now like the GoPro Hero 8 is just phenomenal. The Insta360 One R, you will be able to judge for yourself. I don't want to make that judgment for you, but yeah, we're trying to do this really quickly because can you see? It's like getting ready to rain like this second, so I'm gonna go inside before I get rained on. And that brings me to the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community that offers membership with meaning, with so much to explore, real projects to create, and the support of fellow creatives. I mean, heck, I've got to say personally that between my full-time job and running this YouTube channel, I have very little time to learn new and exciting things. What's awesome about Skillshare and their huge variety of courses is you can do it at your own pace. The next one on my list that I really want to take is the color grading from beginner to advanced in Final Cut Pro X by Miles Fernley. As you know, I've been dabbling in a little more post-processing of my own work, and I look forward to using this course to take my own production to the next level here soon. And what's awesome is the first 500 of my subscribers to click the link in the description below will get a 2-month free trial of premium memberships, so you can explore your own creativity. And we're back. The GoPro, as far as vlogging goes, it's just so good. Next up in the pillars of action is durability. In this category, both cameras do have some shortcomings. It's not just a one-sided brawl here. Yes, they are both waterproof without a case. The GoPro can go to 10 meters. The Insta360 One R can go to 5 meters. Yes, they are also both of pretty robust design. I mean, they're pretty solid cameras. And where the GoPro fails is it does not have a removable lens cover. If you scratch this, you're done. There is no way to protect this with what comes in the box. Yes, you can buy a screen protector, which I have on here right now, or you can get an external case, but this sucks. I don't think this is okay for a company not to provide a way to freely use your camera with what comes in the standard kit. I've complained about this a lot with the GoPro. The 360 One though is not without its faults. I do really like the idea. So I like the idea that this is a modular design. I'm really excited to get my hands on the 1-inch censored version and give that a shot. I like that you can switch out parts and mold it into what you want. But giving more moving parts, the greater chance of failure you will get. And here it's 3 pieces coming together. Now I haven't fallen off a mountain bike with this attached to me yet, but I've got to say I do feel like these 3 attachment points are probably a weakness when it comes to durability. You can put it in an excluded plastic case, and that probably helps it from like snapping apart on its own, but if you want to run this in any kind of gimbal or not have a case, you don't really have any structural support here. Plus, while I know it says it's waterproof down to 5 meters, I have to assume that rain or mud or some kind of moisture will get down into this, but can you see that? It will get down into this groove and it will get into the battery compartment. Like, look at that. It will get in there. I mean, it's a great idea and I'm excited to see how they can iterate on it, but right now this gives me serious durability concerns. Third up on the pillars is compatibility with GoPro style mounts and accessories. Good news, the GoPro is compatible with all of its branded accessories. I think I've made this joke 100 times now, like legitimately I've made it in 100 videos, and it still cracks me up to type it out each time. Yep, the GoPro will work with it, and it works with these tiny little built-in feet. Look at those little baby feet. They work great. It does have a bunch of expensive mods that I'm not a huge fan of and probably won't buy, but I can't really hold that too much against GoPro in this case because the Insta360 One has similar situations. Like I already said, they have several additional attachments and modules that you can buy, like that 1-inch version we talked about, and there is also a 360 module that you can put right here on the camera. The 360 with its included case can attach to all of the action camera mounts on the market, which is pretty, I mean, that is pretty nice. Pretty standard stuff. Fourthly, and the one that the action camera market is really leading the camera world in, stabilization. GoPro has its Hypersmooth 2.0, which is amazing. I can't say anything else about it. It has killed the action camera gimbal in my opinion, and will make even videos of you running look perfectly smooth. Yes, this is really great. The Insta360, I think they have it right here, look at that. They've got their flow state stabilization, which is also really darn good. On their 360 cameras, it's fantastic. Like, it's even better than some of the GoPro cameras. And here on the lens, the 4K module again, it looks pretty good. I think that it also helps that the camera does some of it internal, but it also processes it through their app to export. More on this later. I'll give stabilization to both cameras because both do reasonably well, and that's to be expected in action cameras these days. And lastly on the pillars is ease of use. This is actually the one that I care about the most because when you are out actioning, you don't want to stop and mess around or you'll miss the shot. And why have a camera at all if you could miss the shot? You won't. Cameras don't do any good if they're just not there when you need them. And no surprises here, the GoPro again continues to dominate with just about the easiest menu interface I've ever seen. To this day, it ranks as either my #1 or #2, depending on the day. That Blackmagic Pocket 4K is really darn good too. It's quick, it's easy to swipe through the menus and dial it in, and it's easy to preset options to then really quickly be able to switch to them too while in use. The Insta360 is not as good. I think their interface is fine, but because of the way their modularity is set up with their core system, it has a very small touchscreen here. I mean, it is much easier you got much more real estate on the GoPro to swipe around. Here you don't have as much, so it's much harder to try and use normal swipes or taps to move through the menus. And that makes it doubly bad because to do the same functionality, they had to make the icons smaller to fit in on this back, which, I mean, you know, makes it even harder to tap when they're smaller and you got like one tap takes up like 1/3 of the screen. But, and here's the deal breaker for me. Up until now, with all the little complaints I've had, I could have found out a way to make this work. But workflow here is awful and it's the worst I've ever seen on an action camera. Wait, workflow for action cameras? Workflow for action cameras, yes. Here's the kicker. For the GoPro, you can take the SD card out, put it in a computer, transfer files, done. That's it. Or you could even plug it directly into your computer, transfer files, done. You can't do that on the Insta360 One R. If you plug the SD card into a computer, you will get nothing but proprietary files. You have to open up the app on your phone, render it through your phone, then transfer it to a computer. And that takes a lot of time. That's a lot of steps. And it's so much added friction and it really sucks. Now I understand why Insta360 does this. For their 360 cameras, you do have to have some processing to take that 360-degree sphere and turn it into a usable 16:9 image. You don't have to do that here, especially with this module. This has to get fixed in a firmware update because it makes the camera unusable. And I don't use that term lightly. But at the end of the day, so what, right? Should GoPro be scared of the new offerings from Insta360 catching up on them? Well, I mean, maybe? Now the big thing is, right, I haven't used the 1-inch censored version, and that might make the difference in the image quality because 1-inch sensors are fantastic, especially if they use these Sony sensors. But small action camera to small action camera, no, not even close. Even though the GoPro is more expensive, I absolutely recommend it over the Insta360 One R. The GoPro is just king of the mountain right now. Get it? Action Mountains. And it's gonna take something really amazing and really special to knock it off. Hopefully something amazing will come out that we can check out. Now, if you like this video, I bet you'd like the one where I take the GoPro Hero 8 Black and kit it out for vlogging without breaking the bank. Click here, click on the GoPro, click on the GoPro to watch. Thanks for watching.